They won't see you coming. They never do. Because the world has trained itself to stare at the surface. At numbers, at names, at applause, at followers, and ignore the one thing that actually makes all of that possible. The inner fire. The quiet, violent decision made in silence. To never give up. You weren't born to be seen. You were born to become. So this is your call. Not to impress, not to please, not to perform. But to rise. Rise. Because you're tired of lying to yourself. Rise. Because the mirror no longer reflects the person you were meant to be. Rise. Because every second you waste on comparing yourself to someone else is a second stolen from the empire you were born to build. The game changes the moment you decide. I will no longer compete with the noise. I will build in silence, until the noise competes with me. History doesn't remember the doubters. It remembers the disruptors. Edison when they laughed at the 1,000 failures. Lincoln when they mocked the country lawyer with no money, no name. Hill when he was told success was reserved for the wealthy, for the connected, for the elite. And yet they rose not because of talent, not because of timing, but because of focus. Unwavering, unshakable, ruthless. Focus. The world will tempt you with distractions. The algorithm will serve you everyone's life but your own. But remember this, distraction is the drug. Discipline is the cure. You cannot plant seeds in 20 fields and expect a harvest. The universe doesn't respond to noise. It responds to clarity, to conviction, to a mind so obsessed with its purpose that nothing, not doubt, not failure, not time, can interrupt its progress. So ask yourself, have you been busy or have you been building? Have you been reacting or have you been creating? The greatest empires were not built with applause. They were built with decisions, relentless ones, the kind that feel boring, the kind no one claps for, the kind where you say, no, I'm not going out tonight. No, I won't scroll for another hour. No, I won't compare myself to them, because I am focused on becoming me. The world doesn't owe you its understanding. Let them misread your silence. Let them mock your grind. Let them say you changed because you are changing. You're not here to stay the same. You're here to evolve, to focus, to win. And that starts with a truth most people are too afraid to admit. Your future is no one's responsibility but yours. Not your parents, not your teachers, not your boss, not your friends, not your followers. You are the architect. You are the investor. You are the builder and you are the breaker. And until you take full ownership of your life, you'll always rent your destiny from people who have already sold theirs. You think the mountain is external, but it's not. The mountain is internal. Self-doubt, procrastination, fear of judgment, the addiction to comfort disguised as patience. Climb that and the outside world will fall in line. Because when you change your mind, you change your direction. And when you change your direction, your whole life begins to orbit around the future you've chosen, not the past you inherited. But you cannot do that if you keep feeding the world your time and starving yourself of your own energy. Stop watching them. Start building you. Turn down the noise. Turn up the standard. Because standards build empires and excuses build cages. You want freedom? It's not found in leisure. It's found in leadership. The leadership of your own mind. You think successful people were born different? Wrong. They were just willing to be different longer than everyone else was comfortable. They didn't chase the crowd. They didn't trade their uniqueness for approval. They went all in on one thing. The belief that who they could become was worth sacrificing who they were. And that takes focus. Because focus is not about saying yes. It's about saying no. Again and again and again. Until the only voice left in your mind is your own. Not theirs. Not his. Not hers. Yours. The voice that knows you were meant for more. The voice that tells you you've waited long enough. You've watched others long enough. You've doubted yourself long enough. Now it's time. Time to rise. Time to build. Time to bet on the one investment that never fails when nourished with consistency and fire. You. There will be days when it feels like nothing is moving. You show up. You grind. You do the work. And the world says nothing. No applause. No reward. No recognition. That's the test. That's the furnace where focus is forged. That's the moment when most people quit, because they confuse silence with failure. But the ones who make it, they know something different. They know that progress is like planting a seed. You water it, feed it, guard it, and for weeks, sometimes months, it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, everything is happening. Roots are forming. Strength is building. And when it breaks the surface, it doesn't stop. So when nothing seems to be working, know this, that's when everything is working. But only if you stay focused. Only if you keep showing up, even when it feels pointless. Because the ones who win are the ones who keep building in the dark. Until the light finds them. This world rewards clarity. Not chaos. Not noise. Not trying everything. But the rare and sacred discipline of choosing one path. And walking it until your feet bleed. That's what greatness looks like. It's not sexy. It's not loud. It's not viral. It's not glamorous. It's the boring, brutal, consistent decision to keep going when no one claps, when no one helps, when no one even believes. But you believe, and that's all you need. You don't need the world to understand. You don't need permission to become the version of you that's been haunting your dreams. You don't need approval. You need action. And not just random action. Focused, strategic, purposeful action day after day. Don't chase outcomes. Chase identity. Because when you build the habits of the person you want to become, the results take care of themselves. You don't get wealthy by wanting money. You get wealthy by becoming the kind of person who attracts and manages it. You don't get strong by lifting once. You get strong by building discipline daily. You don't get respected by demanding it. You get respected by earning it quietly, relentlessly over time. Become the kind of person success has no choice but to find. Do you know why most people never win? Because they keep starting over. Every time it gets hard. Every time it gets boring. Every time it gets lonely. They start over. New goals. New strategies. New distractions. But winners? Winners fall in love with monotony. They romance the repetition. They understand that mastery is just obsession with the basics. Practiced with intention under pressure in silence. You want to rise? Then stop chasing motivation and start cultivating momentum. Motivation is a spark. Momentum is a fire. And the fire only grows when you show up. On the days you don't feel like it. On the nights you'd rather sleep. On the weekends others are partying. Because you've made a decision. I will focus on me until I win. Not until I'm liked. Not until I'm understood. Not until they stop doubting. But until I win. Because you don't get to choose your critics. But you do get to choose your commitment. And once you lock that in, truly lock it in, every setback becomes strategy. Every loss becomes a lesson. Every delay becomes discipline. This is what they won't teach you. That greatness isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. You don't have to sprint. But you do have to move every day. Even if it's an inch. Even if it's a whisper of progress. Because that inch added up over time becomes a gap. A gap between you and who you used to be. A gap between you and the world that laughed at your dream. A gap so wide that eventually they stop laughing and start watching. Start wondering. Start studying. How did they do it? How did they rise from nothing? The answer will always be the same. I focused on me until I became undeniable. There's something sacred about isolation. The moment when the noise fades, and all that's left is you. You and the truth you've been avoiding. No more distractions. No more hiding in other people's lives. No more pretending that your future can be postponed. This is the season where it gets uncomfortable. Where you strip down every excuse, every false identity, every borrowed belief. Until only the essential remains. The world will call it selfish. They'll say you've changed. And they're right. Because focus isn't about becoming who they want. It's about becoming who you were born to be. That means boundaries. That means saying no to things that used to define you. That means walking away from people who love your potential but fear your power. You weren't made to stay palatable. You weren't made to stay small. You weren't made to spend your life making others comfortable with your mediocrity. You were made to lead. And leadership starts with the self. Self-mastery, self-control, self-respect. Not the kind of respect that shows up in titles or trophies, but the kind you feel in your bones. When you look in the mirror and know you didn't fold. That's what this game is about. Not results. Integrity. The integrity to show up when no one's watching. To put in the reps when it doesn't make sense. To keep your word to yourself when no one's around to hold you accountable. That's rare. And what's rare is valuable. You become valuable when your character is more consistent than your circumstances. When your work ethic doesn't depend on your mood. When your identity doesn't shift with every opinion. You want confidence? Earn it. Every single day. Confidence is not built in the absence of fear. It's built by doing the thing despite it. It's earned in the moments when you want to quit and don't. Because you know that your vision deserves more than your comfort. You see, purpose isn't found. It's forged. Forged in the fires of repetition. Forged in the pain of sacrifice. Forged in the silence of hard decisions. This is where greatness is born. Not in the highlight reels. Not in the launch events. Not in the likes. But in the quiet choices. To study when you're tired. To build when you're broke. To trust yourself when no one else does. Because you know what you're building isn't just a career. It's a character. It's a life. It's a legacy. And legacies don't happen by chance. They're carved out of chaos. One focused day at a time. You want a new life? Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for timing. Don't wait for certainty. Start. Start messy. Start scared. Start underqualified. Just start. Because momentum favors the mover, the brave, the builder. And the more you focus on yourself, the more you become unshakable. Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger, calmer, sharper. Because focus is a blade. Cuts through confusion. It slices through procrastination. Pierces the armor of every excuse you've ever worn. And when wielded with purpose, that blade doesn't just protect your dream, creates it. They will try to distract you, not always on purpose, but because most people are terrified of someone who is fully locked in. Your focus threatens their comfort. Your discipline shames their delay. Your silence exposes their noise. And so they'll try to pull you back. With small talk, with gossip, with drama, with doubt dressed as concern. But you must protect your energy like your life depends on it. Because it does. This isn't about arrogance. This is about alignment. If the conversations you're in don't feed your future, you owe it to your purpose to walk away. Because here's the truth. Not everyone deserves access to your mind. Not every voice deserves space in your focus. You are not obligated to entertain mediocrity. You are not required to stay small so others feel tall. You weren't born to blend in. You were built to stand tall, even if that means standing alone. The wolf does not ask for permission from the sheep. And the lion does not lower his roar because the jungle is uncomfortable with power. So stop apologizing for your ambition. Stop editing your drive. Stop dimming your light for rooms too dull to hold it. The world tells you to be realistic. But realism is just the comfort zone of the uninspired. And comfort is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. Growth happens in discomfort, in the stretch, in the challenge, in the choosing of the hard path again and again until the hard becomes your home. So train your mind to run toward the hard, to hunger for resistance, to embrace the pain of growth like an athlete embraces sweat, not as suffering but as signal. A sign you're moving forward, a sign you're breaking limits, a sign you're becoming more than you were yesterday. Do you want to know who wins in the end? It's not the most gifted, not the most liked, not the most followed. It's the one who stayed locked in, the one who kept swinging the hammer long after the crowd went home, the one who made focus a lifestyle, not a phase. Because there's a shift that happens when you stop chasing and start becoming. You no longer need attention, you command respect. You no longer beg for opportunity, you create it. You no longer follow trends, you move in truth. And truth doesn't shake when the storm comes. It stands. It holds. Conquers. You are the storm. You are the shift. You are the quiet revolution that doesn't scream, it delivers. So show up. Not for them. For you. You've waited long enough to feel ready. You've waited long enough to be understood. You've waited long enough to be perfect. Forget perfect. Forget permission. Choose focus. And never look back. Because your future, the one with fire in its bones and thunder in its chest, is waiting on one thing, you. There is a moment in every journey where the war turns inward, where it's no longer about the critics outside, it's about the whispers within. That voice in your head that tells you to slow down, to settle, to shrink. It doesn't scream. It seduces. It says, you've done enough. Take a break. No one's watching. No one cares. But that voice is not your friend. That voice is the past trying to keep you prisoner. It is comfort in disguise, and it will kill your potential if you let it. You must learn to speak louder, to command your mind instead of negotiating with it. Discipline is remembering what you said you wanted, long after the mood you said it in has passed. You said you'd change your life. You said you'd stop playing small. You said you'd show up no matter what. So now it's time to prove it. Not to them, to you. Because self-trust is the foundation of greatness. Not confidence. Not talent. Not even motivation. Trust. The deep, unshakable knowing that if you say it, you'll do it. That if you start, you'll finish. That when it gets hard, you won't flinch. You want power? Then stop breaking promises to yourself. Because every time you do, you vote against your own future. But when you keep your word, even when no one sees it, you build a version of you that no one can take away. A you that doesn't need to perform because you already are. That's when things start to shift. You stop chasing validation. You start chasing victory. Not over others. Over the you who used to quit. Over the you who made excuses. Over the you who gave up too soon. And that's when focus becomes freedom. Because when you are laser focused on your path, everything else becomes irrelevant. The opinions, the distractions, the delays, they lose their power. You no longer ask, will this make me liked? You ask, will this make me better? You no longer worry, what if I fail? You decide, if I fall, I'll rise faster. Because your attention is no longer for sale. You've reclaimed it, rewired it, rebuilt it, and now it works for you, not against you. Now every morning is a mission, not a mystery. Now every habit is a weapon, not a wish. Now every hour is invested, not spent. You've stepped into the one mindset that separates the world's greatest from the world's watchers. Ownership. You are no longer blaming. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer wishing. You are building, brick by brick, decision by decision, rep by rep, until your results are so loud that you no longer need to explain, because they will see it, they will feel it, they will wonder what changed, and they'll never understand that while they were watching everything else, you were watching you, and that's why you won. One day, whether it's months from now or years, you will look back on this moment, this quiet moment, where no one knew your name, where no spotlight followed your footsteps, where it was just you, and the decision to go all in, the decision to cut off every excuse, the decision to stop explaining and start executing. And you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. You'll remember the nights when doubt screamed louder than belief, but you stayed focused. You'll remember the mornings when no one clapped, but you kept showing up. You'll remember the seasons of silence, when the world overlooked you, but you refused to overlook yourself. And you'll realize something. The win didn't happen the day the world recognized you. It happened the day you stopped needing them to, because that's when you became unstoppable. Success doesn't arrive. You become it. Not through magic. Not through luck. Through clarity. Through grit. Through an obsession with becoming the version of yourself that you no longer had to apologize for. You want to change your life? Start with how you see yourself. You are not a side character in someone else's movie. You are not background noise to someone else's dream. You are the architect, the engine, the source. But none of that matters if you don't believe it, if you don't act on it, if you don't protect it with everything you have. So this is the call, to protect your mind like a vault, to treat your time like royalty, to treat your discipline like oxygen. Because if you lose your focus, you lose your future. Every distraction is a thief, and every excuse is an accomplice. But your purpose, your focus, your soul-level why? That is the compass. And once you follow it without apology, you become untouchable. They can doubt you, mock you, misunderstand you, but they can't stop you, because you've built something they can't see. A mind that refuses to quit. A heart that's been through fire and came out gold. A soul that said, I will focus on me, until the world has no choice but to focus on me too. And when that day comes, when the winds are visible, when the fruit has bloomed, when the world wants to know your name, you won't be surprised. You won't be overwhelmed, because you'll remember every step, every scar, every silent night that made the victory inevitable. And you'll say to yourself, with stillness in your eyes and steel in your spine, I did this, not because I was special, but because I was focused, not on them, not on applause, not on outcomes, but on becoming, unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable. So burn this into your chest, focus on you, until you win, and then keep going. Because winning was never the finish line. It was only the beginning. Now go. Silence the noise, sharpen the blade, and let them watch, let them wonder, let them wish, because you're not here to be seen. You're here to be legendary.